I put this year together on the way to Manchester on the train. Had a very enjoyable trip to Manchester and back with Rabbi Menachem Liptag. We spent a good 8 hours together. And on the way to the airport with Rachel Frankel, so important people. There are two parashas this parasha, Bahar and Bechukotai. You will note, as we have noted already, that we had run through Vayikra like the wind. We've mamish run through Vayikra. In fact, historically speaking, as I mentioned before, you okay, Tom? Both? It only actually took a month in Jewish history, a month of our historical year, historical time, and really probably based on the fact that the Gemara tells us that we have to read Parshat Bechukotai before Shavuot. We should really, thank you. We should really start Bamidbar before Shavuot, and that's because, and that's really our subject today, having gone through what we've gone through in Sefer Vayikra, and before finally leaving Har Sinai, we have the Parshiot of Bechukotai. Bechukotai it's the Brit with God. It's what happens when we do the right things and what happens when we don't. And when it finishes, we're ready to move. This is all part of Har Sinai. And at the beginning of Bamidbar, we will have a bit of preparation, naming of tribes, and the way the camp was structured. And then we will travel by Ibn Su'aron. And so I could have spoken about Bahar, because Bahar is essentially Shemitah. Most of it is about Shemitah, about Israel, and the holiness of Israel. But I just honed in on a specific essay written by the Meshech Chochmah, which I have edited somewhat. It's longer than what is in front of you. And once I thought of quoting the Meshech Chochmah, it led me in to the sources that follow the Netziv, the Beit HaLevi, Rabbi Yosef Nechemia Koinitzer, and the Eish Kodesh. Okay, so a lot to do. Not clear I'll be able to read all of it inside, but they are very, very important sources. And one of the sentences here in the Meshech Chochmah is unfortunately prophetic. Okay, the Meshech Chochmah lived at the beginning of the 20th century in Dvinsk, Belarusia, and so let's read it. We go through a list of curses that will happen if we do not behave, if we do not keep to the Brit of God. There will be a price that we pay. Right at the end, it's Perek Kafah, but it's right at the end, Va'af gam zot, but nonetheless, Biyotam be'eretz oivehem, when you are in the land of your enemies, Lo ma'astim, I will not be sick of you. Lo ga'altim lechalotam, I will not destroy you outright. Lahafer briti itam, our covenant will last forever. Ki ani Hashem Elokehem, meaning we will suffer, things will deteriorate, but there will be salvation at the end. That is how the Tochacha finishes. Now see this essay by the Meshech Chochmah. Va'af gam zot. We don't learn Meshech Chochmah often. It's a very difficult perush. It's not vortelach. It's real limud. Va'af gam zot biyotam be'eretz oivehem lo ma'astim v'lo ga'altim lechalotam la'afen briti itam ki ani Hashem Elokehem. Ha'inyan hu. You have to follow me here, okay? It's not an easy piece. Ha'inyan hu. Shenitbonen ketzat b'darkei ha'hashgacha. We should consider the ways of hashgacha. Ketzat, a little bit. Ma sheyuchal labid, whatever you can fathom. V'zeh ki ka'asher gazra ha'chochma elyona asher yisrael yinodedu ba'arzot. When God decided that we will wander in other lands, shanim rabot, me'od me'od, many years, Azman asher chakaka hamatara ha'elokit, until that time that God decides acheret, chashva ofanim v'tachmulot, God thought of different ways Asher Yisrael yitkaimu legoy, that we would remain Jewish. We would remain Jewish, v'lo yitbolelu ba'amin, and we would not assimilate. And just before we get on our high horse and say we don't assimilate, ladies, assimilation has different levels. It's not just marrying out. Using their names, wearing their clothes, listening to their music, watching their films. These are all different levels of assimilation. Enjoying their music more than a nigun is also a form of assimilation. They're all at different levels. Our rabbi said in order to survive in exile, we have to make fences for ourselves, protection, to protect ourselves so we do not deteriorate. That we don't drown in this incredible storm of galut, which encompasses us, which attacks us and leaves us sometimes with no wherewithal. The first person who gave us any direction on how to survive was Yaakov. He had seen what will happen to us at the end of days. That if we become comfortable and happy, embraced by the Egyptians, we will become Egyptians. Even if we're Jewish, we will not be Jewish Egyptians, we will be Egyptian Jews. And we will disappear. I don't need to tell the North Americans among us the percentage of assimilation in America on a yearly basis. I think it's over 70%. Over 70%. So what did Yaakov suggest? That his sons would wear Jewish clothes and have Jewish names. You would be a nation within a nation. You have your Menachem Mendel, you have your Tzvi Yehuda, you have your Dov Be'er, and you have your names. You could be a Goldberg, you could be a Milston. And he knew, listen to this, it's quite incredible. I don't think Hasidim learned this one. If Yaakov was buried there in Egypt, people would have given up on Canaan. They would stay in Egypt. And they think it's their homeland. Why? Because Yaakov's buried there. If he's buried there, this must be where we come from. And our whole fate would be thrown away. We'd just be one part of Egypt, another denomination in the Egyptian culture. He insisted to be buried in Israel. They would know that our forefathers are in Israel, our roots are in Israel. You cannot begin to understand the importance of Ma'arat HaMachpelah. I'm not sure whether you are aware, but I don't know whether you've ever paid attention to the fact that there are three parts of Israel that are almost the most disputed areas in Israel. One is Yerushalayim, one is Hebron, and the third is Shechem. These are the only three places in the entire Tanakh that it says black on white that we bought. And why do our enemies always bring up these subjects? Because they know one thing that so many Jews don't, that if you cut off the roots of a tree, you will kill the tree. You can have Tel Aviv, you can have Herzliya, but you cannot not have Hebron. You have to have the roots of your people. And you have to know where the roots of your people are, so that every Jew in the world knows that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they don't even call them Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they are buried in Israel. And if anyone was to take that away from us, cut off the roots, then you destroy the tree. That's where our forefathers are from. And with that there was this natural want to be connected to their land. And that's why it says by Bnei Yaakov, V'yagor. They lived there because they had to live there. Because that was the gezerah, V'yagor. But they didn't become citizens. You have to live there, you live there. But you never forget where your roots are. Sometimes it's not our choice. We're stuck there. Could be old parents, could be young children, could be money, could be a lot of things. As long as you remember the Yagor Sham, and as we will see later, if you don't remember, they will remind you. They will remind you. If at any time in your life you forget, they will be there knocking at the door. In England, they have the head of this Green Party's a Yid. If he thinks for 1 minute that when the day of reckoning comes, they will forget he's a Yid because he said a few bad things about Israel, he simply hasn't read history. When they wanted to know who a Jew was in Poland, they didn't check whether they were Orthodox or Reformed. They pulled down their trousers and they shot them. You cannot run away from who you are. ויגור שם מלמד שלא ירד יעקב אבינו להשתקע אלא לגור שם. You have to go, you have to go. When we went back, I don't know whether Sarah knew me at that age, but when we went back, we never left Israel. We never left Israel. We drove them crazy in Shiur. They're all wearing suits. We had our white shirts hanging out, our kippah over our ears. Jeremy forgot English altogether. After just a year in Israel, it was sandalim. We never forgot Israel. Never. We were here all the time, and we didn't have internet. And we had that. Remember that glossy Jerusalem Post edition that came out a week after the world had finished and moved on to something else? You could pick up didn't know what was going on. You had the Jewish Chronicle. Never, that was our tie with Israel, so we never left Israel. That's a beautiful, beautiful Rabbi Levi Yitzchak. It says, Vayetze Yaakov in Parshat Vayetze. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak in Berditcher says, why does it say Vayered Yaakov? He's leaving Israel. Should be Vayered Yaakov. He said, no, he took it with him. I take it with me wherever I go. And I was once landing in America, people clap when they land. It's a seal, whatever. Chabadnik clapping behind. What are you clapping at? I understand, you're in Goddess. What are you clapping at? I turned around and said, what are you doing? He said, Baruch Hashem. Clap when you arrive, that's something else. I got past your parents on the way out yesterday. I was in my car in 25 minutes. I was at home in 45 minutes in my car. Ladies, you never see me really happy. See me land in Israel. What a picture. I get so excited. And then I said to myself, okay, Trump, get on with it. I'm home now. Do whatever you want. I'm home. I'm going to get stuck there. Lagor sham. You have to. You've got no choice, right? Lagor sham. Okay. But remember you're again. Remember you're again. So what did Yaakov want to teach us? Whenever you go to Galut, that you went there, and you're going there until the end of days or till when you come back, but Lagur, you're there, okay? And you have to do what you have to do, you have to learn what you have to learn, but you are not a permanent resident. Do not see yourself as an Ezrach, as a citizen. Someone got upset with me in England, in Manchester on Shabbos, because I just recalled my own experience. I said, I never felt that I belonged in England. I was grateful for the football, for the theatre, but the only time I've ever felt belonging is here. I've only ever felt belonging here, because this is mine. It can be yours too, I'm prepared to share. I never felt belonging. I felt appreciation. I liked the culture. There was a time when I could do Cockney rhyming slang. We even made our own up in Shiur. We used to do Mississippi Burning, which was learning. We made up our own Cockney slang. And but look at Ezrachim. Look at Ezrachim. And therefore Yaakov said to Yosef, not only are we just dwelling here, but you bring my bones out. And Yosef says the same, get my bones out of there. I don't want my bones. As soon as you leave Egypt, take my bones with you. Hear what he says. But when they didn't listen, when they settled, and they became Ezrachim, then they thought we were their thorns. He explains, we are thought to be thorns, though we're not part of their nation. We're not really part of them. And so also, we'll get a bit further. That's why Ezra and Nehemiah made 18 different decrees to keep Jews as Jews. To somehow separate myself. Go to college, say hello, say good morning. Say I'm in Maryland. Say I'm in Brandeis, I'm in Princeton. I'm in Yale, I'm in Cornell, Yale, Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford, LSE, but remain Jewish. To know this is not your country, this is your country. And you are like the seas. I don't know enough about olives, that we don't mix with other fruits. Even Eliyahu cannot be mevatel the gezerot of Ezra, because they are there to protect the Jewish people, so that we remain Jewish however long we are there. Until the state of Israel, that's my translation, until the Goel comes and we will be brought home. Even he's coming tomorrow, these gezerot will stay there because they guard us. That's why we don't drink wine with them. And the halacha is wine, but it means beer as well. The rayon of the halacha, not the psak in the Shulchan Aruch. The rayon is that we don't go to their bars. We don't go to their bars. You don't need to go to a bar. If you happen to like alcohol, which is an acquired taste which you do not need to acquire, if you happen to like it, buy a crate and take it home. You have to go into their bars and listen to what's his name, Shrek and Justin. To remember you're a yid, stick out your tzitzit, you got your kippah on your head. Someone asked me when I was on the train, you're not going to put a hat on? I said, you've got to be joking, they're going to put a hat on here. Let one person say to me, free Palestine. The one person say, and I will tell them, thank you very much, it's free. And between the river and sea belongs to me. Let them say it. I ain't taking my kippah off now. I'm not putting a hat on either. The only time I have to put a hat on is when the wind blows. And because of my elaborate middle party, I can't always have my kippah. But as the years passed, this is a historical essay, as the years passed, no one believed it. Can you believe it? Look in the mirror, ladies. But don't look in the mirror the way you normally look in the mirror. Look in the mirror at a picture of yourself as a member of this people who've been around for 3,000 years. Her grandma's as old as our country. I want to meet this 3,500-year-old lady. We were the Palestinians. It was just called Palestine. There is no such thing. Someone showed me a book, The History of the Palestinian People. Empty. It's just blank pages. Anyone who lived in Palestine was called Palestinian. But often nifla, you could never have imagined. What has gone through our nation, what has passed through our nation, the klalot, the curses that we've been through, the chadal onim, where we've been lost, and every so often we get 100-year or 200-year break. And then suddenly a wind, a storm comes, and it sends its ways, and it wipes us and it attacks us without pity. 1648. And then we're scattered again. Yarutsu, we run, Yivrachu, we escape to another place, from Spain to America. V'sham yitachtu. You know, in Chabad they say Shnei Or. Shnei Zalman is Shnei Or is two lights. The academics say it's Señor. It comes from Spain. The Jews came from Spain. Shnei Or is Señor. I don't know who is correct, but it's certainly interesting. Yulagoy, Yugdal Toratam, and then we'll get to a new place. We got thrown out of Spain, we made our way to Poland. And boy, did we build Poland. We were invited to Poland, like King Kazimierz. We were invited to Poland in the 16th century. Chochmatam Yasuchal, our wisdom will create enormous fortresses. And we will grow so strong that we will forget that this is not our country. Yachshov kizem makom machsavato, you'll think this is my country. 4th of July, 250 years. I met someone in England, he said he's on a project dealing with 250 years. I said, 250 years of what? He says, of America. So I said, so? 250 years? Little baby. Little baby. Baby America. Baby Trump. We are 3,500 years old. Ladies, 3,500, baby America. Nice little baby sometimes. It's little baby America. Infant America. Toddler America. Old and strong Israel. And when this person feels comfortable where they are, the wind will blow. You can't know this, ladies, because you never saw the comfort that I saw viewed, was shocked by even in America in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. It's not the same anymore. In 1980, there was a group of Piruchim called Miami Boys Choir. I imagine that those boys are now grandparents. Mr. Carter was the president of America. You heard of Mr. Carter? I think he's still alive, very old man now. He's just died. Didn't like us so much. And Mr. Carter was trying to make peace accords between Egypt and Israel. Remarkable discussions between Begin and Carter. And Sadat, for that matter. Now this you can look it up, okay? It's just unbelievable. It was unbelievable for me coming from England. This Miami Boys Choir weren't happy with Mr. Carter. This is how the verse goes. You better find a house for you and your first lady. You're moving out in 1980. It's a song called Mr. Carter. Who in heaven's name do you think you are? Where do you think you are? You are Yaakov. You don't run this country. It's not your country. Look it up, Mr. Carter. It's got a nice ring to it, actually. You've heard it. You better find a house for you and your first lady. You're moving out in 1980. You're Yaakov. You don't belong here. What are you threatening an American president with? We go there. We appreciate. We're thankful. That's it. Yazkiro because and every so often the wind blows and we're remembered, and Mr. Obama comes and we remember, oh, we're not so safe anymore. We're not so safe anymore. And there'll be more Obamas than Trumps. We know that. We know that Mr. Trump is probably the last, whether you like him or not, he's probably the last of the Mohicans with regards to massive support of Israel. And the next Democrat comes in, we can't hope for much. Even the next Republican, they're talking about a very America for Americans Republicans now, the younger generation, not so interested in international issues. It's going to be a different world. Yudiata or misamcha le'ish, you're a Jew. Who told you to open your mouth? You're a guest in my country. Lech lecha el eretz asher lo yadata. You don't know what to do. They're so confused. They go back to Palestine and they say, give it to the Arabs. So what are we meant to do? Go here, go there, get very dizzy, right? They say, go back to Israel. I've had so many songs sang to me when I was a kid in England. They used to sing "If I Were a Rich Man" and throw pennies in front of me. I used to pick them up. I mean, what's there to lose? I don't like you. And now I know all the words to "If I Were a Rich Man." And I was amazed that these Neanderthal boys knew "If I Were a Rich Man." I thought they only watched Rocky One. But I mean, this is going to go backwards and forwards, right? We feel comfortable. We're at home. In America, we felt that way for decades now. For decades. To the degree, I don't know whether you remember when Jonathan Pollard, do you remember Jonathan Pollard? Jonathan Pollard gave secrets of Iraq's atomic weapons to Israel. He was working for America. We bombed those missiles, and he went to jail for over 20 years. And it was a subject that American Jews found very difficult to relate to because we're American. And he was treasonous to our country, even though he helped Israel. What you do? Are you an American Jew? Or are you a Jewish American? We have periods where we are so comfortable, and then it goes crazy again. And then it goes crazy again. We haven't seen anti-Semitism like this in Poland since before the war, in Europe. You know what he did in Poland last week? Member of Parliament, do you see that picture? Stood up with an Israeli flag with a swastika in the middle, in Parliament, in Poland. The chutzpah there. The murderers themselves are accusing us of murdering. I've never seen Europe like this. Maybe they were thinking that all the years, but it's never been like France, Italy, Spain. What's gone into them? What's gone into them? They've gone crazy. And you see it throughout the history. We have these periods of quiet, these periods where it's okay, and then bang! And now he says, I'm telling you that for two reasons. I'm telling you that this keeps us as a people. If they left us alone, we just assimilate and disappear. And every so often they come at us. And suddenly you're Jewish, you've got people walking around. I saw it in England, people told me with Magen Davids. Before that, they didn't even walk around with them. Now they're going to wear a Magen David. They're talking about this woman who comes on the news. I forgot her name. It's very good on the news. She has her own news broadcast. I can't remember her name, but I was coming off the plane in England and someone was telling me that I should listen to her. I said, is she Jewish? She said, no. But, and people wearing their Magen Davids, you put them in a corner, okay, so I'm Jewish. And then again we become, I got to tell you a story. This story normally makes my blood pressure go up, so I took a pill before. In the early 80s, we used to go to Russia. I'm sure your parents did this. We used to smuggle, Americans, I'm not sure, because you can go to America, you can with an American passport. We used to smuggle books to Russia. And I went for 2 weeks. Didn't see me, but I went for 2 weeks. I went for 2 weeks. I was in Moscow for a week. I was in Chernovtsi, which is in the Ukraine. And I was in Kishinev, which you've heard of, which is Odessa. And we reached a place in Chernovtsi. Now, we were B'nai Akiva Chevra, so we didn't have a lot of money. And this is the way it worked. You met a member of the Mossad in a pub in Hampstead. They gave you your mission. Absolute for truth. They gave you your mission. They told you what you were meant to do. They paid for your ticket. You did it. You came back and you were debriefed. And my job there was a very specific job because it was the beginning of Glasnost when Russia was slightly changing, and they allowed an Israeli stall. They had this book fair in Moscow, book fair of peace. Book fair of peace, and Israel was allowed to be there. They had a stall. My job, no exaggeration, I've got pictures. When you come round, you're running out of time, but when you come round, I'll show you the pictures. My job was to meet a member of the Israeli delegation at midnight outside his hotel. I came with a suitcase that was empty. He put down a suitcase full of books. I picked up the books, and then I took it and I had addresses to give it to. Honest to God, that's what I did. And then I had to go to Chernovtsi. And when I went to Chernovtsi, me and my friend, we were Bnei Akiva boys, we went to Chernovtsi. It was like a 24-hour train ride to Chernovtsi. It was me, my friend, and a young married couple. I couldn't sleep, but I did watch the young married man looking at the girls outside of the carriage all night. I did mention it to his wife in the morning, a shalom bias and everything. And got to Chernovtsi, walked into a house, and we're Bnei Akiva Chevra, I have a few svarim with me. After about 10 minutes, it's exactly what happened. It left me so shocked. An American man walks in from Lakewood. Now we're with our little Russian hats, and inconspicuous, this guy walks in with his black suit, with a video camera. I bought this for you, I bought you a car, I bought you a house, I bought you all of this. And then he gives him a couple of rubles. He says, yeah, go out and get some drinks. And so the Russian guy went out to get some drinks, and then he turns around to me and he says the following. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. He says, you know, Israel's good for the Russian Jews. But Lakewood is where the Jews belong. That's what he said. And I burst a pain. I said, what are you talking about? He's never read the Tanakh. And then he turns around and says, how many Gedolim live in Eretz Israel? All the Gedolim are in Lakewood. All of the Gedolim. He kept saying Gedolim. And I'm looking at my friend, his name is Rabbi Nosh. I looked at him and I said, the man's lost his mind. I screamed, Moshe Rabbeinu! Yoshua! David HaMelech! Shlomo! The Gedolim! By the time the Russian came back with the drinks, I'd almost hit this guy. And it's the first time I ever realized what the Meshechach was talking about. When people feel so much at home. How can a from Jew, a learned Jew, he must have been, believe that Lakewood is better than Yerushalayim? Lakewood is for the Jews, the Russians can go to Israel. And then have a look where I bolted it. Meir Simcha said, at the beginning of the 20th century, Yachshov ki Berlin hi Yerushalayim. There are people who think Berlin is Jerusalem. He went on a trip to Germany. You see, the Jews of Poland always knew that they didn't belong because the Poles kept reminding them. They kept doing pogroms. And then he went to Germany and he saw these Yids with their goat beards. And they were learners, but they were German. They were German. And he was blown away. He came back from Berlin. He said, there are people in Germany who think Berlin is Yerushalayim. They actually believe that Berlin is Yerushalayim. And then what does he say? This is about 30 years before the war. He says, you are guaranteed. A storm is going to hit Germany like never before. It will uproot them. It will throw them to a distant nation. A language that we don't understand. Speak to the people of Lodz what happened when the German Jews got to Poland or to Riga. You know what was going on. They were dead within weeks. Yadaki hu ger, and then he will know that he is a ger. That you were never German. They never thought you were German. Only you thought you were German. What a sentence. So ladies, if you didn't realize, Johannesburg is not Jerusalem. Caulfield is not Jerusalem. No, it isn't. In Sydney, they know that it's not Jerusalem. Perth can't possibly be Jerusalem. And if you're about to give one of those comfortable smiles from Toronto, no. Montreal, no. America, no. And in England, we're getting reminders every day. and in truth we never ever thought it was. That's the first essay, where he talks about the fact that the tochacha, which we think is a curse, is what's kept us together. That every so often it comes because we are too comfortable, and the tochacha keeps us together. That's an incredibly massive statement. No one will be happy for the troubles that we have. But if you think about it, you see that this keeps us together when we suddenly realize that we're together because we have no one else. And now have a look at the Netziv. The Netziv is in Bamidbar. By the time we get to this Netziv, unfortunately, many of you will no longer be in this room. That's about as much lack of faith that I have. You could be in any other room in Israel, but you probably won't be in this room. Towards the end of Bamidbar. And it's one of the brachot, klalot of Bilam. And he says, Ki berosh surim erenu umikvaot ashrenu hein am levadad yishkon v'goyom lo yitchashav. So, hein am levadad yishkon. We are a people that live on our own. V'goyim lo yitchashav. And because I will run out of time, I will tell you what he says. He says, Am levadad. If you are proud of your destiny, if you are proud to be a Jew, yishkon, you will dwell. Uvagoyim, if you ever try to be a goy, lo yitchashav, they will never accept you. Am levadad, yishkon. Be proud of your Jewish identity. Be proud of your ancestry, of who you are. Yishkon. Uvagoyim, you try to be like them, you will never be one of them. Whether you like it or not, which leads us to the Beit HaLevi, which I'm going to have to tell you on the inside, on the outside, so I have enough time for Rav Yosef Nechemia and for the Eish Kodesh. There's so much here. Wow, there's so much. The Beit HaLevi says we have a pasuk, and some of you will remember because I quoted this pasuk because it's on the grave of Adam Chen Yaakov, who was the head of the Judenrat in Warsaw. And it's written on his grave, V'omar lach b'damai chayi, V'omar lach b'damai chayi. If you frequent a Brit Milah, you'll know that that's what we say at the end of a Brit Milah, V'omar lach b'damai chayi, V'omar lach b'damai chayi, because according to Chazal, it's referring to the two mitzvot haseh of Brit Milah and Korban Pesach. V'omar lach b'damai chayi, both involve blood, like the sprinkling of the blood of the Korban Pesach and the blood of the Brit Milah. And the Beit HaLevi, following the line of the Netziv, it's all the same Torah, they're all the same, it's the same world. The Beit HaLevi says as follows, you have a choice as a Jewish person. V'omar lach b'damai chayi, you can be proud of your Judaism. You have a Brit Milah, the sign of God is on you forever. But if you try not to be a Jewish person, v'omar lach b'damai chayi, they will defy you. You have a choice. Either way you're Jewish, but either you show pride in who you are, or they will identify you. And you can write whatever you want in the New York Times. But when the day of reckoning comes, you are one of us. Lo ya'azor lecha klum. All of the Jewish policemen who thought they could save themselves, they ended up in Treblinka, they ended up in Auschwitz. They had no intention whatsoever of saving them. The various non-such tzaddikim of Judenrat leaders, not Chen Yaakov, but Chaim Rukovsky, he ended up in Auschwitz. You stand proud of your Judaism, of who you are, of your identity. It doesn't mean you ignore people, it doesn't mean you're arrogant, it doesn't mean you're condescending, and it certainly doesn't mean you're rude. You don't call them shiksas, you don't call them schwarzers, they're human beings, they're good people, you relate to them as good people, but you remain Jewish in who you are. There's no heter anywhere in the world to speak badly of other people. No heter at all. Because it's you who's speaking badly. So what does it matter who you're speaking about? You're speaking badly. And just because you say it in Yiddish doesn't mean it's okay. Doesn't mean it's okay. You might sound frum. They say it in Yiddish and I point at you and say it in English in front of him. Let's see how brave you are. If it's nivel peh, it's nivel peh. You have to respect. You have to care. But you have to remember that you're Jewish and you belong to a Jewish people. However hard it is, and you hold your head up high. There's stinging words from the Beit HaLevi. These were people that lived in Galut, but they lived in Galut. They were Gerim. And the Beit HaLevi is in Bris. You know, they're up there. They know they're hated. They know they're Gerim in that country because they never felt at home. They were so ideologically Catholic, they never felt at home in these countries. And then the Siv is the same. He had to close his yeshiva because they made them learn Russian, and then you want to learn Russian, you have to close his yeshiva. They all knew where they were. They knew they were Gerim. And they're having the same message time and time again. Be proud of who you are. We don't need God to remind us who we are, or the Goyim to remind us who we are. And you get to Rav Yosef Nechemia Kornitzer. He's an incredible statement. I don't know, some of you might remember Rav Yosef Nechemia Kornitzer. I pointed him out to you on the back wall of the Ramah Shul. The back wall, I said, there's a Rebbe who was a Rebbe in Krakow. He died before the war. His son was killed by the Germans and burnt, and the congregation had to pay for his ashes. Rav Yosef Nechemia Kornitzer. So there's a memorial for him on the left-hand side at the back of the Ramah Shul. I spoke about it. At least politely pretend you remember. Oh, yeah. Yes, Nechemia. Rav Yosef Nechemia, and read him what he says. He's talking about the battle between, it's the same message again and again, but see how beautifully it comes up. Rav Yosef Nechemia says like this. You're a guest, so you're looking at the source sheet and thinking he's never going to finish at 6:30. I'll finish at 6:30 because my students turn into pumpkins. So I have to finish at 6:30 and they get very antsy. So I'll finish, don't worry. Okay. She doesn't worry, I'm just saying, just in case they haven't warned. Rav Yosef Nechemia says that there's no one who's Dorish like this man. Oh, so good. So what happens? Yaakov has a struggles with the angel, correct? This is in Breshit Lamed Bet, which is Parshat Torah B'Kiyos, Breshit Lamed Bet. Come on, Riley. Vayishlach. Vayishlach. Fight with the angels. Yeah, Vayishlach. Okay. Vayikra Hashem hamakom peniel ki raiti elokim panim el panim v'tinat zel nashi. Listen to these words. This is so good. This is so good that I'm pleased we're doing it here and you have arms to lean. Otherwise, I think you would just fall over. There would just be domino effect falling forward and everyone would join Klali at Terry. Our favourite place. And Shiur is here. She can take all. But thankfully, we have the armrest. So rest on the arm because this is so good. This is so good. Listen to the pasuk. He's struggling with the angel all night. V'yizrach lo hashemesh ka'asher avar et pnuel v'hu tzolea al Yericho. The sun came up and he's limping. That's what the pasuk says. He struggles all night. There is no indication in the pasuk that he was injured. The pasuk says the sun comes up and he's limping. See what the Rebbe says here. This is so good. I never knew what he looked like. And in Rav Lau's book about the Holocaust, there's a picture of him. I saw the picture and I screamed. And my wife came running, what's wrong? I said, Rav Yosef Nechemia. It's Rav Yosef Nechemia. Malchus, like Malchus. Yosef Nechemia. Yesh b'zeh siman v'remez. Listen to this, girls. Wow. Nothing you can eat tonight will come close to this. Yesh b'zeh siman v'remez musa lebanim. Kol halayla hitabek saro shel Esav im Yaakov. All night they're fighting. Ve'im ki salcha b'yad Esav la'atkei kaf regel Yaakov ligrom lo yisurim. And even though he touched Yaakov's thigh, he hurt Yaakov. Lo itla Yaakov v'lo nika bo l'ra'a ma'aseh yedei Esav. It didn't affect him. She'al zeh amar ra'iti Elokim panim el panim v'tinat zel nafshi. I fought the angel of Esav, and I'm okay. Now listen, Rak Ka'or HaBoker, when the sun came out and he thought everything was safe, And everything was quiet. כאשר זרחה עליו השמש, והנה יעקב צולע על ימינו. When we think they love us, when we think we're at home, then we start limping. We made it through a Holocaust, we made it through 1648, we made it through October 7th. But the minute we start thinking we're going to be like them, then we start limping. Kezarach lo hashemesh. When the sun comes out, you don't feel the threat, you lose your identity, then you start limping. And this is a sign for all of us. Throughout Galut, Esav will keep coming. They'll keep coming. They'll keep coming. Someone told me when I was in England that he asked. I was in Whitefield, and they asked some of the kids there. They're not so from the kids, and they asked some of the kids, "Do you think the Jewish people would be better off without Israel?" And some of the kids said, "Yes, because Israel is the source of our problem." They don't remember Oswald Mosley marching through the East End. We didn't have a state when Mosley marched through the East End. We didn't have a state when Hitler wrote Mein Kampf. We didn't have a state when they wrote the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. Israel's not the problem. Wake up! Wake up! Israel's not the problem. It's just another excuse. It's just another excuse. Whatever we do. We get a lot of punches and wounds from Esav. They will never stop Israel. But when they're nice to us and when we think American and we're lovely and God save America and oh Canada and God save the King, then we start limping. It's in the Parshat. This is so good, ladies. This is the strawberry ice cream. But it's not the cream on the cake. We finish with the Piet Sezna, which I'm going to have to tell you outside. The Piet Sezna is talking Parshat Zachor. He's talking on Parshat Zachor, 1940. 1940 Parshat Zachor is about February, March 1940. Silent war, the British are at war, the French are at war, but there is no war. We are Erev, the French being destroyed and the Belgians being destroyed and the Scandinavians being destroyed. But we know what the Germans are doing, because what they did in Germany over 6 years to the Jews, they've done in Warsaw over 6 months. They know what they are. And the Parshat regarding Amalek says, Asher karacha b'derech. What does the Rebbe say? Asher yikom damo. What does the Rebbe say? Asher karacha b'derech. They made you cool, that you lost your fight with their derech. You thought they had a derech. Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, the ballets, the literature. Karcha b'derech, he loved it so much. Look at the culture, look at the culture. And then the Piet Sezna turns around to his Talmud and says, look at their culture now. Look at their culture now. There is a scene in Schindler's List, which I'm not sure you've seen it as many times as me. Thousands. Incredible scene, the brilliance of, what's his name? Spielberg. There is a scene, they are liquidating the ghetto at night. They're going at night to clean up the people who are hiding. 2 soldiers go, they start playing the piano. They're shooting women and children. One of the guards stops on the landing and says, "Das ist Mozart." No, das ist Bach. Brilliant. They have their music, they have their culture. And then they go and butcher children. And rape women. And we are so enamored by their culture. Well, look at their culture, look at this and look at that. And the Piet Sezna say, now look at that, they're German. They're the most cultured people in the world. They made you cold, they made you complacent with their derech. And there are people, when I was speaking to one group in England, I said, I know, the Jews get excited about a Christmas tree. That's all they got, a Christmas tree and a chocolate egg, that's it. We've got Rosh Hashanah, you've got Yom Kippur. And you don't like fasting, you've got Sukkot. You don't like Sukkot, you've got Sefer Torah, Simchat Torah. You don't like that, you've got Hanukkah! You like Hanukkah! And you like trees, we've got Tu B'Shvat. You don't want Tu B'Shvat, we've got Purim. You don't like Purim, you've got Pesach. You don't like Pesach and you're a religious artist, you've got Yom Ha'atzmaut. And then you've got tonight, Shimon. And then you've got Yom Yerushalayim. And then you've got Shavuot. And they got a tree there. They got a tree. And I get excited because they put lights on the tree and a star on the top. I got Hanukkah. They have one night. Shekarcha b'derech. And people looking, oh, if only I had, oh, dress up as Father Finney. Not even Christian. Look what you've got. You've got a treasure in front of you. Well, there's so much here, ladies, but what you can see here is the message being repeated. That when we have this, and it's not astim l'chalotam, I won't leave you. On the contrary, when I have to do this, it's because I want to keep you. I want to remind you who you are. And you have that with pride. And you have a brick with God. And the brick overrides everything. So, still have a minute before you become pumpkins. You can't even start doing the skin bit. When Shabbat and Tisha B'Av clash, when Tisha B'Av falls on Shabbat, Tisha B'Av represents Chorban. Shabbat represents Brit. Shabbat overrides Tisha B'Av. The Brit lasts forever. And it doesn't mean it's not hard. We have on Morol, we have on Charoset, we have on Matzah, we have Asher, we have a whole Seder plate to look at. The Tochacha is the Brit. And it doesn't mean that God is discarding us. There's no New Testament. There's one Tanakh. There's one people. And you and I are part of that people. Something to think about. Thanks for coming.